Am I dead?
No, no. You've been healing so quickly.
All right, Thomas Manning. There is this new slasher film from A24 that we're going to talk about. Beau is Afraid. It sounds like a slasher film, doesn't it? It's Joaquin Phoenix in this. Parker Posey also in this film. Nathan Lane and a few others. But A24, Thomas, they take risk. They take chances. They are not afraid. And so when I first heard about this dark comedy horror hybrid film that didn't quite have a specification with Joaquin Phoenix, I said, okay, let's see. Well, after I heard it was 3 hours long and I had something else going on, I said, Thomas, this is your assignment, dude. You take it on. And so you did. And I appreciate that. So give me some thoughts on this. What is it? Ari Aster film as well. He directed, produced, and wrote it.
That is correct. Yeah, and it's funny you joke about it being a slasher film. It's not actually a slasher film in your traditional sense, like something we saw last year, like X or Pearl. But there are certain sequences that definitely have a slasher vibe to it. But generally speaking, I'm not someone who likes to spend time ragging on a film, just because I know how insanely difficult it is to make these things. And for Beau is Afraid, it's an interesting case because I definitely can't say it's a poorly made film. Ari Aster, he continues to prove himself as an extremely talented force behind the camera. And when you look at everything they went through over the course of this production, it's miraculous that this film, finally comes to us as it does now. It was a 4-month shoot beginning in June of 2021. Joaquin Phoenix even collapsed and had a medical event at one point during filming. And now here we are. We have the final product, and it's a 3-hour film and it's the furthest thing from a crowd pleaser that you will ever find. So the fact that it's the fact that it's getting a wide release and is already breaking some indie box office records, that's a huge success in and of itself. Going into the film, I thought it was going to be the story of a man's slow descent into madness just based on some of the marketing, and I think you probably thought the same. But it's actually the portrait of someone who's already dealing with some serious psychological issues. It would be easy to say that this is one of those films that take place entirely inside the main character's head, but I really don't think it's that straightforward. I think some of it is grounded in reality, and some of this is happening to Beau physically, but a lot of it is the more abstract manifestation of unresolved internal torment and the ghosts of his past that he's never reckoned with.
There are some films that use symbolism and they use art, and the context gets lost within the symbolism and the art, and you find yourself going, okay, do I really want to work this hard to understand or appreciate the film, the book, the piece of art, the music, whatever it is? And as you and I have talked about this, and as I hear you kind of describing it, it feels like that could be the case here. Am I getting close?
Yeah, definitely somewhat. You could splice out individual increments of this movie in like 15 to 20 minute segments and display those sequences on their own as experimental short films. And I'd walk away from those saying, wow, these are some really brilliant thematic ideas we're working with here. This is an entrancing piece of filmmaking. But when you have all of these segments that are cut together, it's like a kaleidoscopic collage that only truly makes sense to one person, and that's the director Ari Aster. And like, I almost got the sense walking away that if this had been some sort of anthology miniseries, I might have responded to it better.
Now that's interesting.
But yeah. And as a whole, this film is designed to make you experience just about every universal human emotion, and not just sit in the shallows of these emotions, but to fully submerge yourself in all of them. Sometimes individually, and sometimes all at once.
So it's a film that is pretty exhausting, not just because it's 3 hours long, but it's mentally exhausting, and that can kind of pave the way to the physically and emotionally exhausting also.
Yeah, most definitely. And, technically speaking, there's a lot of really fascinating stuff going on. There's this extended animated sequence that's really meta in terms of its position within the narrative. And it incorporates Joaquin Phoenix, the physical actor, with all these 2D animated elements around him. And also these matte paintings that are like very physically deep. They have a lot of visual depth to them. I think similar techniques to what they did like The Wizard of Oz, however, 80 years ago. So it was pretty cool to see some of that old school matte painting stuff. Also, the cinematography uses every inch of the frame. There are certain moments where the camera is stationary and lingers on a wide shot, where multiple events are taking place in different portions of the image, and all of these events are intrinsically connected to one another. So watching this, watching those moments, I sometimes found myself settling into the pace, and settling into the emotions, and almost even connecting with this Odyssey-like journey that this character is going through. But every time that I thought I was getting into a rhythm, the movie would suddenly just like pelt you with the most disturbing and ridiculous and flat out ludicrous cacophony of sights and sounds. And
Man,
hey,
kind of like this show does from time to time.
a lot like this show. And listen, I like when movies are allowed to get weird and bizarre and tiptoe on that line. And sometimes if they cross that line, it may lose a few viewers. And I'm fine if you find a way to do that effectively. But when you're in the first act of the movie and you start playing jump rope with that line, you're going to lose even some of the most devoted audience members by the time you get to the third act, and that line is a very distant memory. Yeah, and sitting on a row of critics, we all occasionally would just look over at each other like, "Are you seeing the same thing that I'm seeing?" And
well, I almost wish that I had been there just for the experience of it, just to be able to sit and go, "What am I watching? What am I watching?" And I will say this: there are certain filmmakers who can get away with doing things that feel kind of straightforward, and then they'll throw this curve in there, and you're like, wow, but it worked. I mean, Tarantino is somebody who can easily do that and can walk that line between something that feels pretty real within a universe, but then when you look at something that happens the scene later, you're like, wait a minute, that's not believable. But yet it finds a way to be believable within that universe, and Tarantino has this master over doing the absurd sometimes, but it just feels so authentic with the way that he presents it.
yeah, and Coen brothers are another pair of filmmakers that come to mind. Like A Serious Man, that's one of their films that people have been comparing this to, and I can definitely see that thematically. But I think the fact that I connected so deeply with A Serious Man, a lot of that comes down to that being a 90-minute movie that finds a way to explore similar ideas but in a much more cohesive and succinct fashion. But this is so just extremely indulgent. And listen, again, I don't mind indulgent filmmakers, and when they I respect that Ari Aster got all the funding for this and was able to tell a story that is so personal to him, or it seems personal to him. I don't know where he would have gotten it from otherwise. But I think just I'm on a wavelength more with someone like the Coens or someone like Tarantino compared to the wavelength of Ari Aster.
Yeah, and that's the beauty of any type of art, and we've said that on this show a bazillion times, is that there is an audience for everything that's presented from an artistic standpoint, entertainment and artistic standpoint. There is an audience for it, and there are those who will fully embrace it, and then there are those who will run away from it with all of their might as fast as they can, never to look back again. And
kind of like Joaquin Phoenix in this movie. So.
And the thing is, each of those on a critical landscape, they're all right. You know, it's how it speaks to you.
What are you talking about?
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 Yeah. And one more big point I'll make about this movie, the central arc is built around, the main character, Beau, Joaquin Phoenix's character. He has an extremely troubled relationship with his mother, and that's putting it lightly. And personally speaking, I have a very strong foundation in my relationship with my parents. I can't say that my relationship with my own mother is comparable to what Beau is going through here.
Right.
And of course, I have enjoyed plenty of movies in my life that I couldn't necessarily relate to. You don't have to directly relate to a movie to get something valuable out of it. As Roger Ebert said, movies are machines that can generate empathy, and they can show you different walks of life and different experiences than you'll ever have in your own life. But really, with this movie, I just walked out kind of catatonic and dumbfounded and frustrated. And right now, as we're recording this, it's been almost 24 hours since I saw the movie, and I'm still feeling a little bit of all of those things. Yeah. And so I respect that a lot of people are going to enjoy this movie, but for me, I just can't say I did. So I think I'll give Beau is Afraid a solid C. But
wow, that's generous. Yeah. Actually, it sounds like.
Yeah.
Well, the way you're describing it, that feeling that you have when you go to a place like Disney World or a theme park and you make the mistake of eating like a hot dog or something before you get on this really crazy ride that will disturb your senses, and then you get off of it just kind of going, okay, help me sit down or help me find the nearest trash can. So that kind of sounds like the way you're feeling right now.
Yeah, or sit down on a trash can. I mean, that would help too. So,
all right, the movie is Beau is Afraid, and Thomas is afraid to give it less than C. It sounds like.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and hey, go watch it and judge for yourself. And watch it with some friends that you enjoy hanging out with, because that will be a memorable experience for sure.
All right, for this Meet Me at the Movies extra, I'm Noel T. Manning II for Thomas Manning. That's a wrap.
I am so sorry for what your daddy passed down to you.